On today's episode of Trash or Treasure, we have Shfiguarts Himiko Toga. And straight out of the box, you get the Himiko Toga figure. Looks pretty good. And as for accessories, you get 6 knives, interchangeable thighs, interchangeable parts for her battle gear, and 4 faces. 1 with her tongue sticking out, masked face, and a kind of crazy face, I guess, and then shocked open mouth expression. Pretty good selection on top of the generic smiling with her mouth closed. And as for hands, you get probably the biggest variety out of any Shfiguarts figure that I've ever owned, with 2 pointing fingers, 2 kind of relaxed hands, 2 grabbing for her knives, 2 grabbing for the little canisters on her gear, which we'll get into in a second, 2 kind of like gripping hands, not exactly gripping, then 2 more open hands, and another pair of open hands with slightly bent fingers. Pretty wide variety, and the inclusion of her closed fists too. And getting on to the accessories, with her battle gear on. When starting to put the battle gear on, I find it easiest to pop her torso apart at the upper part of the chest area, and then slide down part 1 until it clicks into the 2 little tabs on the sides. Then you can go ahead and pop her torso back on. Looking pretty good already, if the camera would focus. So for the next part of her battle gear, you'll notice this little hole section on the back of her. She does come with this little plastic piece that you can plug in when you don't have her battle gear on, so it's not leaving this atrocious gap. And on the bottom of here is the plug-in for the back part. So that part plugs in back there, and then these canisters will plug into both sides. And there, those are attached. And now onto the front. Option number 1 is her normal battle gear. Then option number 2 is the shooting out option, which I think is called the Sting Dance. I'm just taking the name from My Hero Ultra Rumble. But either way. And these are all bendable, so you can pose them. As you can see, the flexibility on these are really nice, and you can get some pretty dynamic poses with them, and they maintain their bend pretty well. And now, for the battle gear, I have the tips switched out on these, so they have the little spikes, and they're not the closed ones like the rest of them up here, and they're in her hands, and the same flexible tubes, just like on the other part of her battle gear, so you can put the canisters in her hands, and you can get some pretty good range of movement with them. So as you can see on her legs here, they're actually slots in, so you can put her knives in the little knife holder. So there she is with the knives in her pockets. And so here she is with 2 of her knives in her hands, and you can move the little knife pouches because they're on a ball joint on the side of the thighs, so you can get her in this pretty cool, definitely more than just this generic pose, but this is just some quick and simple that I came up with as an example. So the removal of her legs to swap out the parts leaves her looking like Lieutenant Dan. You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. And now the knee joint comes apart up at the top on both. So there we have the thighs separated from the knees, ready to switch them out for these ones. So now that we got the thighs switched out, we're going to take a look at the faceplates. So starting off with the blushing kinda "I can transform" reference. Then we've got kind of the more shocked face, or I guess you could call it a screaming face too. It works for both. And then the tongue out, which would be good for a pose for her licking the knife, or her looking fucking creepy, I don't know. Himiko Toga. But scary. her face with the battle mask. Looks pretty menacing. And let's get on to some poses. Pose number 1. Pose number 2. Pose number 3. Battle gear with the mask. Looks really cool. Now, I will like to note that the part that comes off on these bottom canisters is very easy to lose. I just almost lost it and spent the last few minutes looking for it. So that there is a massive downside of this figure is the extremely easy to lose part. Hence why my Himiko Toga is going to get a container all for herself, while the rest of my figures get community containers. But she's going to be living in luxury because she's Himiko Toga. And also keeping track of all of this. Especially those. And that. But I think this is going to conclude my review on SH Figuarts Himiko Toga. Now, is it trash or treasure? I would say it's treasure. Especially for the almost $100 price point. Would I say that it's all of this is worth $100? It's close. I feel like the price range should be more maybe 60 to 50, honestly. But you do get quite a bit for the price that you pay. But that will conclude this review.